Hello. Hello, 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 hello. Happy to see everybody today. Hopefully I'm live. Emily, let me know if I'm live. Yes, it looks like I am live. Uh Amazing. Welcome to the Comp Fu Panda Challenge, guys. I'm super excited about this. You guys might know that comping, understanding value is one of my most favorite subjects and topics, and the reason for that is you are probably well aware that it's one of the most important skills that you can learn in this game. Bobby, I need your help on getting these certain screens right. Hopefully you guys can all hang out for. Look at handsome Bobby here. Doesn't he look like a Lego character, guys? Look at Bobby's hair. He looks like he's like a Lego guy, right? Like it's like he's got that like perfect helmet of hair. Say hello to Lego Bobby, by the way. He's You're still handsome Bobby, but
Lego Bobby works.
yeah,
Lego Bobby.
Hot Bobby. Actually, it's Hot Bobby. But he's Lego Bobby until he gets a haircut. So thanks for hanging out and helping me out here, Lego Bobby. Guys, we're going to give everybody a couple of minutes here to populate the Zoom. We had over 1,500 people register. How many people will actually show up is always an important and interesting thing for me to pay attention to, because obviously this shows us how many folks are committed, how many people think they're committed, and then who actually shows up, right? It's really important that you guys give yourselves a pat on the back for being the kind of human being that shows up. So first, I just want you to give yourself just mentally say thank you. Give yourself some gratitude for showing up for yourself today, because it's one of those things that nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to be different if you don't do things that are different, right? It's a fact of life. Before we get into too much of the content here, I just want to ask, how many of you guys are beginners at comping? And if you're a beginner at comping, put a 1 in the chat. And if you feel that you are like advanced, put a 2 in the chat. I just want to see how many beginners we have, how many advanced people we have. Awesome. So it looks like we've got a good mix of beginners and a good mix of advanced. This is going to be helpful to both beginners as well as advanced. For you guys who are advanced or in the middle, you'll get some quick refreshers. I'll be going over just some information to kind of remind you of the rules and why we do things the way we do when we're comping. Again, on the other side of that, I just want you to remember that things are different right now, because in 2023, the market has shifted so much. We've got inventory issues. We've got pricing being propped up because people aren't selling their houses. We've got fewer transactions. I think they said that I was reading the Wall Street Journal today, and home sales are down 12% from last July, but the prices are up 1%. So think of that, right? We've got home sales plummeting because people aren't selling their houses because they have these enjoyable 2, 3, 4% mortgages. And then on the other side of that, you would think, well, we have interest rates above 7% right now. So highly likely that with rates being so high and no inventory, there should have been like a drop in price, but it hasn't happened. It did happen originally when the Fed started to increase interest rates, but it hasn't stayed, right? That price elasticity didn't create downward pressure on the housing market pricing. Just slightly. It did for a slight amount of time, and now it's been propped back up because people are not selling their homes. Austin Zabak had a reel that he did today that I saw on his Instagram, and I thought it was really smart. He said he was just advising people, if you have a 2, 3, or 4% mortgage, don't sell that house. Why would you ever sell that house? You want to hang on to that property and turn it into a rental property. Make it something that you keep as an asset, because the low priced mortgages will become an asset in the future, which I completely agree with. And that's the reason why people who are buying creative deals with really low interest rates are enjoying some really good opportunities right now because of this. But all that said, whether you're doing wholesale, whether you're doing fix and flip, whether you're doing buy and hold, whether you're doing creative finance, buying subject to or owner finance deals, None of that is possible without you understanding value. Understanding value is the key to being a good real estate investor. In fact, the reason why I became successful in wholesaling and why some would consider me one of the best in the United States at wholesaling single family houses is my understanding of value, right? And how did I get here? Well, I've interviewed hundreds of appraisers. I went to appraiser school. I didn't get my license because it wasn't necessary. I wasn't going to become an appraiser that would take jobs on. But I absolutely really believe that when I was doing the learning and when I was understanding and I was interviewing people, I learned a lot. And I saw that there were some commonalities amongst what appraisers would all say, what they would all use as their metrics. So hence, I bring you all of that knowledge. I bring you all that experience. I'm still the person that, if Pace wants an ARV, he'll send me a text and say, hey, what's the ARV of this, bro? I get people from across the country who are masters at this business still rely on me for understanding value. So that just kind of gives you an understanding of at least my pedigree when it comes to comping property. And so my goal over the next 2 days is to impart as much of this knowledge into your brain. Okay, I want to take what's happening in my mind, the way I think about it, the way I look at each house, and I want to install that into your brain. Now, the only way that I'm going to be able to do that is if you guys are following along with me. All right. So I am going to give everybody an opportunity here. And, we're not going to get into the actual content part until we have our prayer. So that's going to still come up. But I'm going to give everybody a chance to just go and make sure they've got the privy tool. But before we do that, like I would begin any one of these, I will begin with a prayer. And the reason for that is I truly believe that anything and everything we want or need in our life will find its way to us through our source when we ask and take steps towards it. Now, if this makes you uncomfortable, please just mute me for a second. I'm going to pray anyways. But if you'd like to join us, here we go. Father God, we love you so much, Lord. Thank you for today. Thank you for opening all our eyes and giving us breath, for giving us the minds to connect and communicate with each other. God, we are so grateful for that. Lord, we ask that you guide each of us to your purpose for our lives, so that the steps we take are your steps, the words we speak, your words, the actions we take, your actions. God, we ask that you guys guide us to those individuals that'll be of benefit to us, either through a financial gain or a lesson we need to learn. And we also ask that you deflect us from those individuals that would waste our time or bring us harm. Lord, for any of our family members here that are in need of any additional understanding of the concepts that I will teach over the next 2 days, we just pray for perfect clarity in their minds. And for anyone suffering through any physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual pain, we just pray for perfect healing in their lives. And Lord, it is with humble hearts and in your heavenly name we pray. Amen. All right. So I'm hearing some of you guys have issues with volume. It sounds to me like the majority of people can hear me. So if you can't hear me, it's not us, it's you. Right. So if you can't hear me, there's so many folks here that can hear. So if you can't hear, then go reset your thing and do that. Now, before we begin as well, guys, I want to speak to you about the tool that I'm going to be using. I'm not selling anything today. Okay. I'm just letting you guys know about a tool that I use. Right. So I use Privy as my tool for comping properties. You need that tool if you want to follow along and learn what I'm doing. And so I'm going to give everybody a chance. If you don't already have Privy, just go to Privy. It's go to www.runprivy.com. There is a chat. There's actually a link right in the chat. Press that link, go sign up, use code COMPFU, COMPFU, for 30% off the annual or 20% off your first month if you do monthly. I just highly recommend you go do that right now. Go do that right now so that you can follow along with what I'm going to do, because if you don't have this, there's really no point in watching this, right? This is the tool that I use. This is the tool that I teach on. This is the tool that I highly recommend for learning comping and for comping across the country. So go get it. All right. You're going to give everybody an opportunity to do that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to just speak to some of the important reasons why I believe that comping is so incredibly important. The code again is COMPFU, COMPFU. Go to runprivy.com, use code COMPFU, COMPFU, for the discounts. Right. So now, why is it so important that you guys understand how to comp? Well, first and foremost, when you are getting the values wrong, right, what ends up happening, and this is from my positioning as somebody who has been an educator in this space for quite some time, someone who's done over almost 7,000 deals now, and counting, right? I'm continually doing deals. I'm continually on the boots on the ground. I'm still wholesaling, even though I own the nation's largest wholesale company. I still do deals. I'm on the phone talking to my agents. I'm helping my team, just as any of my acquisition reps do. I'm a deal junkie. This is what I do. But one of the things that I notice about what people fail on, or how people get it wrong, is they will neglect to understand how important it is to check value. And this is why people are canceling so many deals, right? This is why when you're going in and you're finding that, I comped this wrong, or I got my ARV wrong, and I offered wrong, and now I put this house under contract and nobody wants to buy it. Now I got to anger this seller, or now I got to anger this real estate agent. And you don't understand what that does to not only your reputation, but what it does to the reputation of this business model as a whole, right? Because we've been working really hard to legitimize and to normalize the conversation of wholesaling, so that it's not looked upon as, because it did have a negative connotation in some circles, right? Some real estate agents were calling us predatory. Some, the National Association of Realtors wants us to be licensed. Again, which I'm not against, but hey, look, less regulation first, right? This is capitalism. We should be able to manage ourselves. But the reason why so many people get this wrong is because they're not taking the time. They're not taking the time to learn how to comp, right? And when you get it wrong, you put wrong offers out there, you cancel deals, you upset sellers, you upset real estate agents, you tarnish the industry, you tarnish your name. You're not going to make any money. You're going to end up canceling more deals. You're going to get frustrated, and that frustration is going to lead you to what? Quit. And then when you quit, what happens? You gave up. You gave up, right? See this chain reaction, and it could have stopped by you understanding and learning comping, really. Because if you become the best valuator in your organization, in your crew, in your team, in your company, you become the most valuable person. You're the one that everybody wants to ask questions to. Everybody wants to say, hey, what would you give me as a buy number for this property? What do you think we can sell this house for? That's how I got so good. That's why I have so much business, is because this is what I did. This is what I continuously do. This is what we actually taught the entire Keegley organization to do when we're working with other wholesalers, is to be able to give people buy numbers, right? When you can give somebody a buy number, when you can tell them, hey, this is what you should pay for this property, and this is what I think we can sell it for. Now you can be more competitive, right? As we see right now with the market being where it is, the inventory being so low and people still wanting to purchase, if you're getting your offers wrong, like if you're offering too little on a house, the sellers are going to laugh at you, the agents are going to laugh at you, and you're not going to get the deal. But if you're offering too much on a house, they're going to accept your offer, and then they're going to hate you when you cancel. So it is really important that you get this right, right? So if you guys agree with me that it's important for us to get this right, do me a favor and give me a thumbs up in the chat. I just want to see that everybody's awake here and everybody understands the importance of this topic. Beautiful. We got about 500 of you on this Zoom right now. I don't know how many of you are on YouTube, but I want to see 500 thumbs ups. Okay. Because this is important to me. And again, my whole team, I am taking time out of my day. My team is taking time out of their day. I'm paying for them to take time out of their day to teach you this skill, which will ultimately help you. And I'm not going to receive a lot from this, other than knowing that I had a hand in being able to give you guys a knowledge. So it's super important that I know that you're engaged. If you haven't already gone to Privy and signed up, go do that. Okay, guys, stop. Don't be a viewer. Don't be a consumer. Make sure that you're actually following along. Do, right? This is a business on action. So again, there's the link. Just go get it done. It takes like 2 minutes to sign up. Also, there is a money back guarantee. So at the end of this, if at the end of this you're like, no, I didn't learn enough, or comping isn't, I don't like comping, I think I just want to shoot blind, just get your money back. Okay, so you have no risk. You have no, and look, even for all you brokers, all you broke people, I mean that in a kind way. All you broke people, look, if you have to cancel it and get your money back, it sucks that has to happen, but at least learn this so that when you have the money, you can go buy it again and figure it out, right? So I'm not suggesting that you do that, but if that's how you got to hack life right now, because that's where your finances are, hack life right now. Okay, hack life. This is important, and it's important you have the tool. So the link is right there. Code is COMPFU, 20% off your first month, 30% off the annual, and we're gonna get rocking and rolling here momentarily. And if you do have Privy, do me a favor and put a P in the chat. I just want to see how many of the 500 that we have here actually are users of Privy. And the chat is paused, so you can do it now. Sorry, I can't. Okay, well, unpause the chat, and if you're still here, then I'm sure you have Privy. There we go. So we got a lot of folks that have Privy in the chat. Amazing. There you go. Amazing. Guys, we're going to have an incredible time here over the next couple of days. And I just wanted to share with you guys what the schedule is going to be for the next 2 days, so you have an understanding of what this is going to look like. Okay, so again, we went over just how important it is to underwrite, how important it is to be somebody who's knowledgeable about underwriting, and how valuable that makes you in your business. What some of the repercussions are when you do this incorrectly, like tarnishing your reputation, tarnishing the industry, really angering sellers and having them go to the media. Like, guys, it's just so important to understand just how crucial this is to getting this right. So make sure you do that. Yes, the price did go up a little bit on Privy, guys. We weren't playing with you last time when we said, hey, it's everything has gotten more expensive. Developers, inflation is real, right? And so the costs over at Privy have gone up a little bit. So unfortunately, if you didn't take advantage of the old pricing, it's gone up a little bit, but that's the reason why we have these incredible discounts. So make sure that you are getting the discount, right? So obviously the folks who take action early, sometimes actually most times what ends up happening is they get an advantage. So it's okay if you didn't take advantage before. Now you can jump in. Who knows? Prices could go up again. So don't be in that spot where you're just like watching everything go by you because you don't want to take action and responsibility. So let's make sure that you've got that. Again, the last time I'm going to say it for the next little bit, there's going to be a link in the chat. Go sign up, runprivy.com, code COMPFU for the discounts. Now, I'm going to be then going over the appraisal rules. And for those of you that are unaware of what the appraisal rules are, this is where I show you exactly the way that an appraiser thinks. Okay, so how they're valuing the property, what things they're looking at on a property to see if something is a like-for-like comp. So we'll be going into the appraisal rules, and I'll be talking about how they've changed for 2023 so that you've got updated information. And then I'm going to also go over how to come up with your offers. And one of the beautiful things that Privy actually gives us is the ability to see what other investors are paying for properties in the market that you're in at this current moment, right? So we're going to be able to see what should your buy price be, right? And how do we come up with your MAO? How do we come up with your offer? And so that's important because, again, one of the questions that I get very often in my DMs from folks that are brand new is, hey, I don't know how much to offer on this house. So we're going to help you guys understand that. And then also going to just give you guys a template on how to get an offer out rapidly, right? So if you're working with an agent, you're working with a seller, you can get an offer out real quick. And then this way, the more offers you're making, the more opportunities you have, the higher the likelihood that something is going to connect. I'm also going to bring up, and you're going to hear from Astro Flipping community members that have been smashing it. We'll be hearing from Raki Zidane coming to us from Atlanta, and he's going to speak about specifically how his business and how he needs to evaluate in Atlanta, how he's been using Privy to run his comps for that. And then tomorrow, we're going to hear from Corianne Wright. If you guys haven't seen her before, she's been on many of my YouTube live streams. She's in multiple markets. I think she's in like 9 or something crazy like that, but she's just a juggernaut. She's a licensed real estate agent. She's an active wholesaler. And one of my favorite people. She will show us how she's utilizing Privy to put out her offers every day. And these are students that are doing really well in their businesses, right? Like Raki right now is doing close to $50,000 a month, if not more, in revenue into his company. Just imagine that, right? Like you make 50 grand a month. How flipping cool is that? In addition to that, guys, make sure you're squatting up with each other in the chat. I love seeing when people are communicating with each other, helping each other, and building new relationships. So it doesn't matter to me if you're in the Astro Flipping community, if you're in the Sub 2 community, if you're in Brent's TTP, or if you're in multiple communities, or if you're in none of them. It's important that you squat up. It's important that you connect to people that can be helpful. But just, real quick to speak on how important community is, right? If you look and talk to any of the Astro Flipping community members, just how many deals that they're doing with other people from Astro, right? Like it is a marketplace in and of itself, right? It's a marketplace in and of itself. So super important that you guys understand that. It's really important that you really dive in and get good at connecting to people and becoming a part of a community, because that'll help you tremendously in the future as you're doing business. So Emily, if you would, I think everybody has the software at this point. I'd like to bring up the appraisal rules. Share screen. One sec, I gotta just open up this window. Okay. Beautiful. Thanks, Bob. Now, how much can they see?
They can see the whole thing.
They see my
They see what you see here.
Oh, like my chat and all that too?
No. Just this.
Oh, okay. All right, guys. Sorry, I'm 45, so I ask dumb questions because I don't understand things sometimes. But these are the appraisal rules. I have updated them for 2023 so that you've got the information that you need to actually accurately find ARV for your properties in this new and shifting market. All right. So first and foremost, we want to make sure that we're not using comps that are, we want to try to find comps that are 90 days old, but nothing more than 6 months. Okay. So like 6 months is like the maximum. We have to start looking and making adjustments beyond 6 months. I think Privy's default is set to 8 months. So what we'll do is we'll have Benson adjust the parameter for us so that we're only finding comps within 6 months to give us the most fresh data that we can find. Now, if you are in an area where there's just not a lot of sales going on, right? You're like in a more rural part of the United States, but that's where you work, and I can't convince you to go into a major market because you like, I don't know, the smell of cow poo, whatever it is. If you are having to use old comps, then you're going to need to adjust some of your values down because the market has shifted and adjusted. But what's interesting is in some markets, the market is down 10%, like in Southern California, year over year, the market is down about 10% on pricing. Why? Because we had a big exodus of people leaving Southern California. You have that new $5 million estate or mansion tax. You've got just lots of things going on that is moving Southern California around, a housing crisis, all kinds of stuff going on over there, like rampant homelessness. But then on the other side of that, you've got markets where it has increased 10%. Isn't that crazy? Like We've got markets in Florida right now that not only rebounded from the shift, but they've actually come back up beyond the shift. And so that's super exciting to see that you've got differences. But what that also shows us is that we don't have a national housing market anymore. We now have a regional housing market. So it's even more important for you to dive into Privy and look at the analytics and the data behind current transactions, like how much people are actually paying right now for stuff, so that you're not over offering. And then you'll know exactly where your buyers are wanting to buy from, so that you can get it a small delta below that and make some money. Now, fundamentally, when we are looking at comps, right, we want to look at things that are like for like, right? That's the number one thing you got to remember in comping, is that like for like. Okay, that means if I'm comping and if I'm gonna say just houses are fruit, okay, let's just say houses are fruit. Okay, so this house is an apple. I have to comp and I have to find apples for apples. And sometimes people are like, yeah, you know, apples for apples, a Granny Smith and a Macintosh, but they're not the same, right? So not only do you need to have the same kind of apple, you want to try to have the same apple grown under the same conditions and the same orchard from the same tree, right? This is how specific you want to try to get when you're comping. Now, of course, it's not always going to be possible. And because it's not always possible, you're going to need to make adjustments. And the more adjustments you make, the less accurate your ARV, right? So every time we have to make an adjustment, remember that we're stepping farther and farther away from like for like. And so that's going to make the accuracy of the ARV less. But we do have some specific adjustments that we can make when there's not exact matches. And it's very rare that you find exact matches unless you're in like these markets like Phoenix, Arizona, where we have these suburbs where, you know, the builders had the creativity of field mouse, and they basically built the same house 1,000 times in one neighborhood, right? It's like, if you ever watched that TV show Weeds, Phoenix is basically a city of ticky-tacky houses, right? And they all look the same. So it's very easy to find model matches for specific comps, but not every market is like that. If you go into other markets with a little bit more variety, then we're going to need to make adjustments when things change. Okay, now, when we are trying to comp like for like, we want to make sure that we stay in the same subdivision. Okay, we don't want to leave the subdivision. And if you actually, how you'll know you're leaving the subdivision is if you're crossing any major streets, right? So if you're not crossing any major streets, there's a good chance that you haven't left the subdivision. Now, you can leave a subdivision if that's what you have to do to find an accurate, more recent comp, but it's preferred you don't, right? So again, if you leave the subdivision, then you have to compare like for like subdivisions, meaning were the subdivisions built around the same time? Do they have the same construction style? Are they the same builders in the subdivision? And so these are the things that you start looking into and getting in the weeds on when you start leaving the subdivision. So again, if you can not leave the subdivision, try not to. And I had somebody ask, what's considered a major street? Well, you'll see that when we're actually doing this live, because I'm going to be comping properties with you, and then I'm going to allow you guys here. This is what's going to be really fun, because I want this to be as proactive as possible. I'm going to give you an address, okay? And you guys are going to go and comp it, and you're going to put your number in the chat. And then I'm going to comp it, and then we're going to see how far apart you are from what I get. And this is going to tell you, am I getting this? Am I starting to understand? Did I follow the rules? Did I make the adjustments right? So I want us to make this as proactive and as interactive as possible. And so after I do one with one of my addresses, we're going to open up the chat, and you guys are going to give me some addresses, and then we're going to comp some of your properties. And then we're going to let everybody in the chat decide and look at what the ARV was themselves, put it in the chat, and then we'll just compare, right? The best way to learn is to actually do it. Okay. So I'm like, really want to get into the weeds with you guys here. I really want to help you understand this. Now, beyond that, okay, I'm going to be always vocalizing what I'm thinking about, right? So as I'm making decisions, as I'm going through the map, I'm going to say why I'm making these decisions. So it's not lost on you. Like, why did he do this one over that one? Like, why is he saying this one doesn't count? What are the reasons he's disqualifying this house? And what are the reasons he's qualifying this house? So that you guys can start to think like me when I'm looking at these properties. And then as I say that stuff and I think that way, then I want you to start practicing saying things like that and thinking that way, and try teaching somebody in your close vicinity, or maybe go teach your spouse or teach a child or teach a friend what you learned today. Because again, one of the things that I can say helps people retain is not only doing, but then showing, right? Because when you teach stuff, you learn it again. So really important for us to retain this. We want to make sure that you guys are actively participating and then teaching somebody else how to do it as well. Can I get everybody's commitment that they will do their best, that what we do tonight, what we do today, that you will go and you will try to teach this to somebody tonight so that this information stays in your mind and we didn't waste our time here? Okay, great. I need to have us all on the same page here, because as I said, doing these challenges is costly for my team. This, Zoom event is not cheap. Having Hot Bobby sitting here all day is not cheap. Yvette in the background, not cheap. Emily in the background, not cheap. And again, I get nothing out of this other than having the knowledge that I helped you, right? And so that's what I truly care about. So on we go. Now, if we are comparing two houses, we want to make sure we're comparing two houses of the same property type, right? So if you have a ranch house, you want to compare it to a ranch house. If you have a two-story, compare it to a two-story. And then we want to make sure that we are comparing houses in the same build generation, right? So now build generation is an interesting one, because typically appraisers will say, we don't want to use anything plus or minus 10 years of building construction. And that's true up to certain points. So for example, in markets like Pennsylvania, where houses were built in like, I don't know, late 17, early 1800s. And then you've got other houses to compare it to from the early 1900s, right? And so it's like, you're like, well, can I even use this comp? There's like 70 years between it, right? But you can, because the build generation, the technology didn't really improve, right? So like the late 1700s, the early 1900s, mid 1900s, there wasn't a lot of technological advances that happened in building construction. But once you pass like 1930, right? 1940, 1950, 1960, 1970, 80, 90. Now the construction technology really starts to escalate fast. So beyond 1930, after that, we really only want to compare properties that are plus or minus 10 years of each other. It's not always possible. So when that happens, we have to make adjustments, but you get the drift. Now, last thing I want to say about the adjustments here is when you have two houses that are close to the same, but not the same, right? One has an extra bedroom, one has an extra bathroom, one might have a pool, one doesn't have a pool, one has a garage, one has a carport. You get what I mean? You need to make those adjustments as well. Now, understand this, that you can only compare two houses that are within plus or minus 250 square feet in size of each other in order for that comp to be super accurate. So if that is the case and they are within plus or minus 250 square feet of each other, then the next things we want to say is, okay, a bedroom is worth plus or minus around $10,000 to $25,000. A bathroom is worth plus or minus $10,000. A pool can be worth plus or minus $10,000 to $25,000, depending on the market. For instance, Palm Springs, a pool is highly desirable. Some parts of Florida, they're highly desirable. But in Minnesota, nobody can even use it. It's an ice rink half of the year, right? So how much value does a pool get in Minnesota? $10,000. Also, garages in places where there's extreme weather. For instance, Minnesota, again, gets cold in the wintertime. A garage is worth more than $10,000 there. It'd be worth around $25,000. In Arizona, for instance, it becomes 120 degrees out here. And so that can be, another $25,000 value. But in areas where the garage is not as necessary, where it's a little bit more temperate, then a garage has less value. So it'll be worth anywhere from 10 to 25K. Carport worth about plus or minus $5,000. And then again, this happens a lot of times where people will see a subject property is either fronting, siding, or backing major traffic or commercial or multifamily, and you have to make adjustments for that. Under the price point of 500,000, siding or backing or fronting traffic, siding is worth 10K, a loss of 10K. Backing is worth a loss of 10K. Fronting is about minus 20K. And over 500 grand, okay, that's when we move from thousands to percentages. So siding, traffic, or commercial or multifamily will be worth a 10% loss. Backing will be a 15% loss, and fronting will be about a 20% loss. And then lastly, if you are looking at any ADUs, so ancillary dwelling units or basement square footages, it's really important that the type of construction is the same, right? So if the finish in the basement is similar to the finish upstairs, then it's usable. But typically appraisers will only give you 50% of value for the square footage. So if you have a 500 square foot basement, they'll only give you 250 square feet of value. Same thing for a guest house. If you have a 500 square foot guest house or ADU, they'll only give you 250 square feet of value. Why they do that, I don't know. But that's how they work. And so they'll only give you 250, they'll only give you 50% maximum value for that square footage if it's finished in the same way as the main square footage. So this is really important for all these people that have houses with basements in it. That in markets like Minnesota, again, where there's a lot of basements, you tend to have agents and sellers want to get full value for their basement square footage or their ADUs, but it just doesn't work out that way. Okay. Awesome. So now that we've gone over these appraisal rules, hopefully you guys all understand that and there's no big questions. I want to start looking at some potential properties. Okay. So first, just wanted to make sure that you guys all have the rules. So if you do have the rules, just in the chat, let me know that you've got the rules and give me a thumbs up. And if you don't have the rules yet, we are going to put a document in the chat for you to have. It's really important that you print these out. I would print them out and I would like post them somewhere in your office, wherever you are working, and have it visually there. You know, the more times that you look at something visually, the more you remember, the more it becomes a part of the like subconscious framework of your brain. Okay. So great to see that you guys all have them. Next, I just want to bring up Benson, you got some time to come up and say hello?
I do. Of course I do.
How you doing, bro?
Hey, good. How are you?
Excellent, man. Long time no see. What's new and shaking, and what's cracking in your world?
Oh gosh, so many exciting things. The team is growing like gangbusters, a bunch of new features, functionality. We just added the whole new rental data feature set and data analytics for rentals. So you can find properties now based off of cap rates, cash on cash return, annualized return, gross yield. So that's been exciting. And for many of the people here, you may be thinking, well, I'm not ready to buy a property yet. But guess who does want rental properties? Landlords. And they need help finding properties just as much as a flipper does. They're busy out there finding properties. They're busy with all the stuff they're working on. So if you can find landlord buyers, and I don't know the exact number, but I was talking to Brent. He thinks it's one out of every 10 people are flippers compared to people who are building a portfolio. Would you agree with that? Or?
It's an interesting stat that we're talking about right now, because I've been hearing a bunch of different stats out there, and I don't know who has it right now, but I'm hearing closer to 1 out of every 5 houses is investor owned. Now, what's the purposes of their ownership, whether it be rental, fix and flip, or other purposes? But that's quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a lot. So I guess the moral of that would be, you guys, if you haven't looked at landlords as a potential buyer pool for you, for your wholesale deals, like look at that, because there's a lot of those people that need help. And then for you, actually, I'm curious too. Last time we talked, you had just launched your book, and it was already like 100 sales out of being a bestseller. Like, what happened? How'd it go?
The book launch was phenomenal. I really enjoyed doing that, but it's like on to the next thing now, right? I wrote a book. I love that, and what I also learned in that whole process is all the new people that came into my world that bought the book, the number one question I got was people needing help with comping. And this is like fundamentals. It's the fundamental of where people get it wrong, of where people need help. And so, as I was sitting here talking to the team, we really just, decided that it was super important for us to get back to the basics of helping people understand this. And because, Emily, as you guys may or may not know, is moving moving away from my team to going into full-time work with her husband, who is a wholesaler that I taught. So, thankfully, I did a really good job of teaching Greg wholesale, but I lost Emily in the process of it. So she's going to be going into a full-time work with her. And so this last little bit for us was like, hey, let's make sure that we send Emily off with a bang and we do something really good for everybody and help with people's comping. So this is why we put this on.
I love it. Yeah, so many of the other coaches out there, the people that live in YouTube land, they're just so focused on lead generation. Leads. That's all about leads, right? And then potentially what happens if it works? Like, oh my God, we actually got a lead. Now what do we do with it?
Right. And look, leads are important. I'm not going to tell you that they're not, but how do you even know if it's a lead? Right? Like, how do you even know if it's a lead if you don't understand value and understand if there's motivation there, right? Like, otherwise it's just a list of numbers. I think people get it wrong because they're like, oh, I got 10,000 leads in my CRM. What are those? Oh, it's my list of tired landlords that I've skip traced. Okay, those aren't leads. That's a list of people. Right? Leads are when you've talked to them a little bit and they've expressed interest in talking to you again. That's a lead. Right. And now if you don't have an understanding of what value is, and you talk to somebody that wants $1 billion for their, $10,000 house, well, that's not a lead. That's a crazy person. And so you also need to understand the difference between a lead and a crazy person. Right. So like, this is why, again, just getting back to the fundamentals of understanding value is super important.
100%.
Benson, I want to jump into getting to some comping and then opening it up for people to come along with us. So if you would, can you share your screen and let's look at a house.
Yeah. I want to touch on something you mentioned earlier when I was backstage, I think is really important. You mentioned, and you kind of glossed over it. It was the idea of looking for houses in, say, like rural areas, right? It's harder to comp a property out that's in a rural area because there's less sales, there's less homogeneity of the properties, right? And so comping gets really difficult when you look in areas where there's not a lot of sales activity, but also too, there's lower investor activity.
Right.
And there's a thing that we do in Privy that I think it's unique, and it's something that none of our competitors do. But over here on the left, if I click this button that says fix and flip, that plots on the map where all the fix and flips that are happening nationwide have occurred. So you have a better sense of that there are some markets where you can execute a wholesale strategy more effectively than others. And so because you do have a choice of where you go and do business, you do have a choice of where you spend your time, then try not to choose rural areas and try not to choose cities that have lower investor activity. So on this map here, where you see these large circles with high numbers, those are the areas you want to go because that's where the flips are at. And if we're measuring how good a deal is by a percentage of ARV, you have to be in an area where people are flipping. For most people, that's an afterthought.
Right.
But if you think about it way ahead of time and you begin with the end in mind, that'll make it way easier for yourself. Like when you do find a lead and you go to comp, the likelihood of you having houses that were renovated as part of your comp set go up, which makes it way easier to identify and nail down an accurate after repair value instead of having to use a bunch of unrenovated homes as comps and not really knowing what the ARV is.
I think the reason that people do that, Benson, is there's this backward thought process that people have that, oh, I go to rural areas, there'll be less wholesalers competing for deals. And guys, that's scarcity thinking in it, like 101. Right. Okay. So I want to go where there's no competition. And so I can be, the king over here. Well, if there's no competition, there's a reason for there be no competition. There's no competition there because there's no buyers there. If there's no buyers there, there's no deal for you there, right? So you might get something under contract, but what's the point of getting things under contract? I don't care about contracts. I care about closes, right? I care about what closed. I don't care what I contracted. That contracting is a vanity number. Sometimes I see these other, influential people on Instagram, and they're like, we got 45 houses under contract this month. And it's like, okay, yeah, but how many closings are you getting every month? Right? Oh, well, we close about 10% of that. Okay, cool. So you got 45 contracts this month, but you're going to close 4 to 5 deals. Awesome. Say that. So let's say that, right? Because that's actual money. That's actual business that's being concluded, not just vanity, like, I got all these contracts. I don't care how many contracts you got, because cost per contract is one of the biggest reasons people fail in this business, because they're spending way too much money to get stuff under contract and they're not getting enough stuff closed. So keep that in mind. Now, Benson, I want to begin by working on an actual address that we had in Phoenix, Arizona. I put an address on my Instagram when I was first telling people about the Comp Food Panda Challenge. And I asked people, hey, look at this house and tell me what the ARV is of the house. And I got answers all over the place. I mean, the answers they ranged from ARV is 250,000 to ARV is 395,000. And these are people that follow me. These are people that show up and come to Straight Outta Compton. And so I thought, holy moly, if there's still this much ambiguity, if there's still this much, this many people getting it wrong, I really wanted to go over that one specific address so that I could walk people through. So if you could, is it 3108? Yep. Could we look up 3108 West Missouri in Phoenix, Arizona, please?
Yep.
Beautiful. Now, here you go, guys. This is one that I bought recently. And it is actually a 3-bed. It was a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,778 square foot, single story property, built in 1954 with a 6,700 square foot lot. Now, I made an adjustment to the house. We reconfigured the property and we turned it into a 6-bed, 5-bath property. And that 6-bed, 5-bath property still has 1,776 square feet. But why we have so many beds and baths is because my plan is to turn this into a rooming house for the college right across the street. So I intend to rent each of the rooms out for around $800 to $1,000 a room. That's why every room now has its own bathroom, except for 2 bedrooms are going to share 1 bathroom. So they'll get, lower rent. My goal is to turn this into like $5,000 to $6,000 a month gross cash flow, and then, see what happens with it. So that's my play. That's the plan here. But let's take a look at this as if it was a fix and flip, because I want to go through and explain what ARV is on this. So open that up for me, if you would, Benson.
Yeah. So here's the comps, right? And we have the ability to filter by probably one of the best, I guess, filters when you're looking at comparables is distance, right? So the closer the comp, the better. So you can sort these, and now we're sorting by closest to furthest.
Correct.
It looks like there is some fix and flips in the area. We found 1, 2, 3 houses that were actually flipped.
Okay, great. One of the things that I want to make a note of is that Missouri is a busier road, right? So that's one of the adjustments that we're going to need to make is I have to adjust for the major road. So I want to see if I can find a comp that was also flipped on either, we'll look at the map. One of the major roads nearby. There's the one there on Bethany Home that is a major road that could be comparable, but we'll have to see that. So if you can open up the map for us, Benson, and can we see not just investor? Can we see everything, all the sales?
Yeah, these are all the sales. We've just hidden the ones that aren't within our comp criteria. So
beautiful.
Right now we're within 15%. We're matching up stories. So it's all here, whether it's a investor deal or not.
Okay, wonderful. So taking a look at this, zooming in a little bit. Sorry, I can't see that. I cannot see anything if you zoom out.
Okay.
Thank you, bro. In a little bit more.
Let me do something real quick here.
And I might have to switch to my screen just because I'll be able to see better than the other way around. So next time I might do that. I might just share on my end, and you can we can walk through stuff together. But if you take a look at that one on Bethany Home at 450.
Okay.
What are the details on this one? So we've got very similar year built, similar lot size. This one only has, it says only 1 bath and 0 beds. I somewhat distrusting of that because I know the area, and it would definitely be at minimum of 3.2. But so that's an interesting one to see. I don't necessarily believe that my property hits the $450,000 range, especially seeing as mine's about 300 square feet smaller than that. So I'm going to disqualify that comp. Let's see the one at 380 over there to its left.
So one thing about the Bethany one, it looks like it was an off-market sale. So
Right.
the data that comes from this one would be from the county. So county public record data doesn't show beds, unfortunately.
Right.
Now, if it's sold on the MLS, like this one here on Solano, as you can see, this one has the true beds and baths because it's an MLS deal.
Correct.
Now, if we look up into the one on 380 on Palo, this one also was an MLS. So we've got the true beds and bathrooms.
Awesome. Now, if we take a look, this house is actually very similar to my subject property, seeing as that it has no parking. It's got the almost identical lot size. It's got almost identical square footage. My property is slightly larger. It's also a 4-bed, 2-bath, and mine gonna have 6-bed, 5-bath. So it's closer to that. And so we can make some adjustments when we're looking at this one. So if you could, for me, Benson, let's look at the photos of this house. So we can see they've done a beautiful job on the renovation in this house, very similar to the style of renovation that you would see me do if you ever watched Triple Digit Flip. This is the style of property, and the way that we do our renovations are very functional. We try to use high quality materials. I probably wouldn't have used a white recycled fridge in there. I would have just put a new stainless steel one. So I'm going to knock them for that. But otherwise, I think they've done a pretty decent job with this one. Beautiful.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And so seeing that, we now know we've got to make some adjustments for the bed bath count. We need to make some adjustments for the size. And then we need to make some adjustments for the traffic that Bethany Home has. Now, one of the pieces that I do want to say, and I think is actually helping us, is that because we do have the traffic, we're in a bit of an interesting predicament, because the traffic is actually going to be helpful in this one instance, because it is going to be a rental for the university right across the street, right? So that's kind of an important thing to know. Now, I'm still going to make the adjustment for the traffic, but I don't necessarily believe it's going to be as negatively impactful as it would normally be if I was to just put this out and sell it to a family. Okay, so we have $380,000 as the sale price. First thing I want to do is I want to take the $10,000 off for being on on a major road. So 380 minus 10,000 gives me $370,000 prior to adjusting. Okay. Now I want to take that and I want to divide it by the 1,700 square feet that we have here, and that gives us $217 a square foot. And I want to apply that to my 1776. at my property, that gets me up to 385. But now I've got an additional 2 beds and I've got an additional 3 baths. Okay. So if each bed is worth roughly $10,000, okay, that's going to add another 20,000 to my price. And I'm up at 406 and I got another 3 baths. All right. So I'm going to add another $30,000 for the baths. So guys, the ARV on this one with this high comp, seeing as how it closed not too long ago, is 435, 435K. I didn't see very many people breaking the 400 range on their answers, but for everybody who did answer this and did get above 350, I commend you. This was a tough one because, again, I made the adjustments on the bedrooms and the fact that it's on that major road adds some clarity situations. But let's look at this one on Solano because it is a 5.2 and I want to see how different it is in finish.
Yeah, this one's pending. It didn't sell yet. And it's not a full reno. This is just a house that they had updated at some point in the past, but it's an older reno and it's still at 370.
Right. So I think that this pending actually helps us understand the accuracy of the 435 number, because again, if this is 370 pending, then my 430 should be very easy to get, considering I'm going to be a 6-bed, 5-bath, but I'm going to be completely remodeled.
Mm-hmm.
So Karen asked, wouldn't you use a comp with the number of beds and baths? Yes, but there's not a lot of comps there that have the same number of beds and baths. And I know what value an appraiser gives for the bed and for the baths. And so for that reason, it's totally acceptable for me to make the adjustments. I don't see any 5 or any 6-bed or 6-bed, 5-bath comps here. The closest we had was this unrenovated one, which was on Solano, which in fact, I think the fact that this had a 5.2, but it's not fully renovated, makes it less viable than using the one that sold at 380.
I will say there's one more thing that you can do here, you guys, when you're comping, is that on the first pass, we really drill down on the most relevant comps based off of like the standard comping rules. But if you go into the settings here, you can click this button that says all, and that will lift the comping algorithm and it will show you everything in the area. And because we are looking at a very unique property, we may be able to even use houses that are a little bit larger in square feet because we do have so many bedrooms and bathrooms.
Correct. And I actually like to use all as well, Benson, because it just gives me so much more information. The investor stuff is also really important to look at, but I like to see it all again, just to get more clarity on there. But I think we're right along the lines on this one at our valuation of about 430 to 435. So that was the answer to that one, guys. I hope that you all understand how we got to that number. And again, I'm going to be giving you all an opportunity to comp along with us. And so as we do that, I'm going to show you guys, and I'm going to point out exactly what I'm thinking about and what why I'm using the comp that I'm using, why I'm excluding the one that I'm excluding, just as we did on this Bethany Home one. We excluded the Bethany Home one because it was a tax sale. There wasn't any photos there. And so, again, that gave me a completely different situation. So someone was asking, how did I come up with my offer price with my 435 ARV? So it shows that my purchase price on that was $200,000. I actually ended up paying a slight assignment fee on this one, and so I didn't get the property for $200K. When you're buying from a wholesaler, you end up actually, that number, what you pay in an assignment fee isn't reflected on what's recorded. Okay, so When I was looking at this, some of these sales actually hadn't happened quite yet, and I wasn't sure that I was going to be doing the adjustment to a 6.5. And so when I was first looking at this, I had actually looked at this as a 400 ARV, not a 435. Making the additional bedrooms didn't happen until after I purchased the house. So I was really looking at this as a 3-bed, 2-bath, 400 ARV. And for me, I thought, okay, in Phoenix, Arizona, I typically want to be about 65% of ARV. And so 65% of ARV was around $260,000. So I actually paid $250,000. So I got it slightly below that. And I made the wholesaler who sold me this property a $50,000 assignment fee, which was phenomenal for them, right? So they got to make 50 grand. I got the house around $10,000 less than I knew my maximum allowable offer would have been. So I'm in a really good cost basis on the acquisition of this house. I'm likely going to spend around $100,000 on the remodel. But again, I'm not looking at this as a fix and flip. I am looking at this as a buy and hold, right? This is a communal living pad split play for me. This is not a fix and flip. But even as a fix and flip, if we were going to evaluate this as a fix and flip, if I have a 400 ARV and I've got $100,000 in renovations and my acquisition cost is $250,000, so that's $50,000 in profit before I have to pay all the agents. So it wasn't a very great deal to buy as a fix and flip. This didn't pencil very well as a fix and flip. With the rehab being what it was, this needed to be a buy and hold. So I had mentioned that on my lives. If you had watched, I'd said it a few times. I overpaid for this one, but I was overpaying on purpose because if you think about it, I paid $250 for the purchase. I put 100 in renovations. That means I'm into the entire thing for around $350K. And this thing should cash flow for me $5,000 a month. So if this brings in $5,000 a month, you times that by 12, that's gross $60,000, right? For a $350,000 property to gross me $60,000 a year, that's a phenomenal ROI for me. So that's a really good depreciation, appreciation, cash flow play for my business. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. And I explained to you guys the play on how I was able to do that. Now, Benson, I want to go into looking at not just the Phoenix market, but there is an incredible human that we have as a part of the astro flipping community who, is, in my opinion, just been doing a great job for people out there. And he's in Atlanta, Georgia. And so before we bring up Rocky, what I want to do is I want the people in the chat, if you are in Atlanta and you have a property for us to comp, let's get it in the chat now. And we're going to live comp this house. We're also going to give you an opportunity to comp it as well. And then we are going to reconvene and we're all going to go over it together. All right. So without further ado, guys, get your addresses for properties to comp in Atlanta, Georgia in the chat. And if we could bring up Rocky Zidane.
What's up, brother?
How are you, Rocky?
I am doing amazingly great. How are you?
Beautiful, dude. Always happy to see you and have this opportunity to chat and work together. Thanks again for taking the time out of your day to be here with the community. We've got roughly, I don't know how many people we have on YouTube. Any idea, Bobby, on how many people are watching on YouTube?
It's going up later.
Oh, it's going up later. Okay, so we've got a roughly just under 700 people watching here, Rocky. So some of them know you, some of them don't. If you could tell us a little bit about you, about your business, how you and I know each other, and then we'll get to some comping.
Absolutely. No, first of all, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me here. I was happy to try to give back to the community because that's what you do. That's what you teach us every single day throughout the week. So very excited to be here. Thanks a lot to everybody that's involved in making this happen. And my name is Rocky Zidane. I'm your one and only Iraqi flipper here in Atlanta market. So met Jamil back in 2021, and life took off. He's been a huge impact on my life. Literally helped me change, and not only my life. I tell him this all the time. I text him. I don't care if he's on vacation. I'm like, hey, there's a text for you. Just a reminder how much I love you and thank you for everything. Because what he teaches us, we turn around and we teach somebody else, right? And that somebody else will go on and do well for themselves and do well for their families, and then their family will do well for themselves and their other family and their friend. So he did. I mean, I love Jamil, and I'm not saying this because he's a mentor or coach. He's a brother to us, and he's been great to each and every one of us. And
Thank you, bro.
he's been a huge impact in our business as well. And we're doing really good in Atlanta.
Well, I was speaking earlier on the community, and just how we've become the largest community of wholesalers on the planet. We actively do so many deals amongst each other. Tell us, what's your business looking like, and how much of the business are you doing with people within the community? Because I think what folks, with some of the comments I get sometimes on my ads, right? Because people they love to write stuff on your ads, but they're like, why would I ever pay to learn from this guy when I can learn everything he does on YouTube for free? Which, yes, you're right. I give everything that I teach away on my YouTube channel for free. I do. That is how you deliver value to people. I want you all to learn how to wholesale, and I have no problem sharing that. But talk to us about the community, Rocky, because I think that people don't understand the difference between coaching, community, and information.
Right. So first and foremost, if you're growing, you're succeeding. If you're giving and growing, you're living. This is it. You're living your life to your best potential right there and then. And that's why our community is different. This is not just a real estate community. This is literally a brotherhood and sisterhood community. Literally everybody know each other like in there, and we support each other every single day. The difference is, yes, you can learn from YouTube University all you want, and you will do just fine. But do you just want to do fine? That's all you want? You want to do well for you and just forget everybody else? No, you want to turn around and help a brother out, help a sister out, offer a hand, because at some point you needed a hand and you were able to get it. The difference between this and that is not how much you pay for the course. The course is so damn good, but the community, you can't put a price tag on it. Everything I'm doing today in our business is with the community.
And what does that look like monthly? Like what are you doing right now for deal volume and revenue?
Well, we only doing 93,000 this month. So
I love how he just puts an only in there for dramatic effect. But that, brother, I mean, it's a phenomenal result. And again, I'm not here to tell anybody to join the Astro community. But I am saying that being a part of a community is super important, right? It's really important that you guys have people that you can connect with. And, you've been able to find your business partner within the community. How many deals are you doing with other Astro flipping members?
All of my deals are with Astro flipping members.
Okay. So guys, think of that, right? Hear that, right? It's not just, okay, I got information. No, he's doing business with other community members. And that's what leads to the $93,000. He can't do that all by himself, right? He's got other people bring things to the table. He brings things to the table, they connect, and then away they go. Right. So, Astro flipping is my wholesaling community. Chris, who just asked in the chat, what is Astro flipping? It's my wholesale community. If you have any desire to learn more about it, I've got people from the community in the chat. They're happy to help you out if it's something that's a good fit for you. If it's not a good fit for you, all is well. If it is a good fit for you, then I'd love to see you. I'd love to be more involved in your life. So with that said, I want to get into some comping. So tell me, Rocky, let's get into some specifics on Atlanta. What are some things that people need to understand about Atlanta when they're looking at and doing comps?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So that's the one thing about the difference between YouTube and the community, because in the community you have so many successful leaders as well as new students who are been in the game for a while, right? These people that can help you understand your market better than anybody, because you can't live in Michigan expecting to apply those rules to Atlanta, Georgia. And you know what's funnier is if you're in Georgia, you can't even apply the rules that apply in Atlanta for Metro Atlanta. What does that mean, right? So it's simple. For example, let's take a fix and flip, for example, right? Because you want to wholesale a fix and flip to an investor. And buyers should really be looking at no less than almost $60 for a full gut in Atlanta, no less. That's a minimum. That's me being generous. And if
Right.
they're doing cosmetic, they're looking at 45, maybe $50 a dollar square foot, right?
Right.
But now you get out of Atlanta, you go to north side, like north of I-20. For those that live here, understand that if you get toward like Gwinnett County, other different counties outside of Atlanta, you're really looking at $25 to $30 per square foot for a cosmetic, $45 to $50 square foot for full gut. So it varies. So it's very important to understand your market so you can understand how to identify a deal and pitch the deal to your cash buyers who are your partners. Because that's our question. You say, how can I introduce myself? And if I'm just getting started, it's simple. You should always introduce yourself as an investor. Hey, Jamil, it's Rocky here, an investor in Atlanta market. My partners and I buy 3-5 properties, or your partners, your cash buyers. Your cash buyers is not a one-time transaction, guys. They're your life partner. You're gonna do 10, 20, 30, 40 deals across over the next few years.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Right. So
Yes.
Benson, if you could, are we still seeing Benson's screen, everybody?
Yep, it should be here. You should see a property that's on Flagstone Drive in Atlanta.
I start.
All right. So let's put in a new address. Is this one of the addresses from the chat?
Yeah, this is one that somebody dropped in there that I put in to Privy.
Wonderful.
You want to do this one?
Yeah, let's do this one. So 2659 Flagstone Drive. Rocky, let's dive into this one and where do you think the ARV is on this one, and where would you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and very important note, guys. When you come, don't look at the pictures too much. Look at the pictures later on, as far as like estimating your rehab and whatnot. I don't want you to fall in love with pictures. I want you to fall in love with data, because that's very important. Yeah, we'll look at comparables right now. See, that's a beautiful thing about rentals right now. You got different colors.
Benson, can you change this to sold so we can see all of the solds, all of the
This is all the data. So this is the rental comps, and these are
Yep.
this is the sales activity. There is not a sold comp for
My
this
goodness.
house.
Yeah, I've been on settings on all of them.
So if you click all, we can adjust to see stuff that's not the same, right? And this
Yeah,
is what you have to do when you don't have much sales activity.
right.
Most everything in these areas are big, lot larger than the subject.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
100%. I mean,
that's something that we want to keep in mind. So let's adjust it by size. So we've got those top four. They are a little bit farther
bit by
away than I like.
right. I mean, the subject is it's a 3-2. It's a one level building 56, 70 days on the market. So it's really good. We're looking at the 1350 square foot. What I want to do is first, I want to look at 3-2s so I don't have to make any adjustment. Then I'll look at the square footage.
Okay.
That's really important for me. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to look straight at the beds and bath counts. So I have a 3-2. That's the third one down. 3-2 building a 59. So that's within. And I look at the square footage, and it said, there you go. It's within 100, right?
Mhm.
1256, and it's sold for 350. Does that give me an idea that's the ARV? Maybe. If we click on that on the deal itself, all the way on the left, it's
What's
gonna
the
pull up.
address, Rocky?
2746.
Yeah, 2746.
Pasco.
Yep.
And you can easily tell if it's renovated. This is not fully renovated, but it's staged. They left the outside, but here's the thing about Atlanta. Why did I say not fully renovated from the beginning? Because some of them are in historic district, you can't paint the outside at all. But now you look at the inside, you're like, okay, now it's fully renovated. What went wrong? You can't paint the outside. Keep that in mind, because a lot of places in Atlanta, you can't touch the outside. So now that I found this, I can pretty much go based on this number right here.
So there's a couple of adjustments you'd want to make, right? Our subject one is slightly larger, so we'd want to get to the dollar per square foot and make the applications. But then this also has a larger lot. Okay, it's got a substantially larger lot than ours by roughly 9,000 square feet. At this price point, every 2,500 square feet, in my opinion, is worth about $5,000. So I would say we need to make an adjustment down of about $9,000 for the lot difference. So that takes us down to about 340. But now we have, let's call it 340,000 divided by 1256 to get our dollar per square foot. So if we go 340,000 divided by
the square footage for those that wonder.
1256, yeah, that's 270 a foot. And we take the 270 a foot and multiply that by our subject's 1350, sorry, that gets us to about 365 as an ARV for our subject. Now, I just want to point out here, guys, that I believe that you could probably push beyond 365, because I don't think that the level of the renovation of that comp was super great, right? I think the reno was like good, but not awesome. So I would almost put the ARV range between 365 and 380 on this one if you did a nicer job. Can we just see that one on that's 370 at Flintwood, please?
Mhm.
Yep.
Ooh,
Boom.
wow.
Look at that. You see, the outside tells a lot. That's why I said, remember what I said in the beginning, not fully renovated.
Yep.
Versus,
This,
look at,
I would say this is your top comp. You know, you've got almost identical, square footage. You've got identical bed baths. You've got identical lot size. You don't have to make any adjustments to this one. In fact, Raki, I think this one nails it for us. This is our high comp. This is where we anchor. I would say ARV 370. So now we know ARV is 370. What is the buy price? Where would you want to offer on this subject house?
so there's two ways to do this, right? And I'm glad like I went the route and showed you that one first and not fully renovated versus this, because it's the whole purpose of this training is to teach you how to comp, right?
Mhm.
And it's very important to know your ARV, because that's crucial when it comes down to locking up deals. So there's few. So some people like to go by percentage, which is it puts you about 40% of the ARV for full gut and no more than 52-53% of cosmetic, just because Atlanta homes are a lot older.
So guys, I want to explain what he just said. Okay. He just gave us the difference between full gut and cosmetic. We get asked this all the time, right? How do I calculate repairs? How do I calculate repairs? How do I make adjustments for repairs? So I want you to understand what he just said. Okay. He said, what, with 40% for full gut, Raki?
Yes, sir.
So he wants to be 40% of ARV for a full gut. Okay, 40% of ARV. So if ARV is 3, and that's going to adjust for the repairs.
Absolutely.
That adjusts for the repairs. Do you understand? Because it's a full gut. So if we're at 40% of 370, then he doesn't want to be in this thing for any more than 150. Like 145, 150 is his top offer for a full gut. Now, can we see any more photos of this one?
Yeah, now you go back and look at the pictures before you find love, and you're like, okay, does this look like a full gut to you guys? In the chat, throw in yes or no, and then we'll go over this as we look at the pictures.
Yeah, this percentage is only for Georgia or Atlanta, Metro Atlanta.
Correct.
And we'll be, going over other markets when we have Corian up as well. So, and we're gonna do these. We're gonna do these a lot more, guys. I'm gonna bring Benson and many of my community members into these challenges where we can learn more together. And if you guys have a market that you'd like me to focus on, we'll also solicit that information from you guys in the future and bring people from other markets so that you can learn from them as well. I definitely have some people in from Texas in the future here. And you're right, guys. No, this percentage of ARV would never work in Southern California. It would never work in Southern California. Why? Because in Southern California, you're typically buying at around 70 to 80% of ARV, not even minus repairs. Okay, so like in SoCal, the pricing is just, it gets knocked so high because of the speculation and all the people that are buying out there. It really makes it a little bit more competitive. And so that's why that wouldn't work for Southern California. Now, would you consider this a full gut or would you consider this a cosmetic?
Cosmetic for sure.
So now we know it's not full gut. That means that we could be at about 52% of ARV, correct, for cosmetic?
Correct. 52. For this one, since I look at the wall, I can actually bump it up to 55%.
Okay, so at 55% of ARV, we know ARV is 370. This is a cosmetic remodel. He can get to 55%. So Racky, you would offer anywhere between 200 to 205?
Yes, sir, 100%.
Okay, so this is listed at 265. How many days has it been on market?
70.
70 days on market. Offer number needs to be 200. I think that if whoever has this one locked up, there was a really good chance that this seller would be open to a $200,000 offer, having been on the market for 70 days, right?
Click on comparables, Benson, please.
Mm-hmm.
If you click on comparables right there on the right side on the top, it says DOM, days on the market, 7 days on the market right there and then. And the highly chances that the seller will take 200, like you have a really good chance to get this at 200. You can get it at 205 and still sell it for 215, 230.
Well, I just heard from the Astro community member, Scott Jenkins. Love you, brother. He's in the chat right now. And guess what he has it locked up at?
Talk to me.
198. So
Whoa.
he's
Send it to
right
me.
he's right on the money. He's right
Send it
on the
to me.
money.
Okay.
Okay, now not only that, now Scott can connect the dots with Racky right over here, and boom. And let me just point out to you guys that Scott didn't pay anything for this lead. Okay, this lead came to him from using Privy. He was able to identify it, that there was an opportunity there by letting Privy do its job, right? And then comped it using Privy, and then again used his negotiation skills and used his ability to build rapport and his ability to understand how to talk to agents that he learned from me in the Astro community, as well as from other people. And he uses all that knowledge to then go in there and get that deal locked up at the best price. And he did a phenomenal job getting that thing locked up under what I would have thought it needed to get locked up at. So my number was 205. Scott Jenkins got it locked up at 198. Congrats, Scott. I think this is a very sellable deal, and I think you're going to do a good job with this one. How fun was that? Let's look at some more. Do you have one that we can look at right now, Racky, while we're waiting for people to post more in the chat?
Yeah, we should actually. We have quite a few that we can take a look at it. Let's look at. Let me pull up my board over here.
Daniel Mendez asked, for training purposes, while you're getting that address out, for training purposes, can we talk about what the difference between a cosmetic and a full gut is? Absolutely. Okay, a cosmetic means that our major big ticket items are covered. Okay, so the roof is good, AC is good, electrical is good, plumbing is good. Okay, what it needs: new paint, inside, outside, flooring, kitchen, primary bath, carpet. So cosmetics, but the structure, the fundamentals of the house are in good shape. Now, across the United States, excluding Southern California, so this is everywhere except SoCal and possibly New York. Right now, cosmetic remodels are going around $40 a square foot. Okay, $40 a square foot. So if you want to do just quick back of the napkin math, $40 a square foot for cosmetic. Okay, full gut now. Full gut means that we're going to likely need to replace the roof. We're likely going to need to do some electrical work. You may need to add or replace the AC. You might need to do some plumbing repair and possibly replace some pipes. And so that's going to be a more involved renovation. And right now, the national average across the country, excluding Southern California and New York, because those two places are crazy and everything is just way more money in both of those spots. But everywhere else in the country right now, full gut is $60 a square foot. $60 a square foot. So
I got one for you,
Gold.
Vincent.
you guys
With
can do
this
some.
one, I really want the audience to type in the chat what they think as we're going through it. I want to see prices from you guys, and to see and like how much was just. I know we only did one, but I want to see how effective that was based on that information we gave y'all. So, Vincent, 23. I think I sent you the address. You have it.
I have it. Yep.
Sweet.
So do you
Southern
have this one under
California right
contract?
now, I don't have a ton of data on Southern California, but what I'm hearing from investors that I work with in SoCal is that cosmetic is 60 and full gut runs around $80 a square foot. But I don't have enough data to say that that's it for sure. I've gotten that information from a handful of investors that I work with in Southern California, but take that with a grain of salt because I haven't been able to really expand that, testing that number with hundreds of people. So that is just for informational purposes. You should probably, get, and Scott Jenkins just confirmed he's using $95 a square foot for full gut and $55 a square foot for cosmetic in SoCal. So I was pretty close.
Interesting.
Awesome.
This one, I think I sent not the wrong one, but this one's off market. You want to continue with it, Jamil?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Okay, perfect. This came actually from an agent. It's a relationship that you guys build by closing deals, and you're gonna get a lot of off market listings, where they call pocket listings.
Amanda Lynn said, when you say 50 to 55% of ARV for cosmetic remodel, where does that number come from? And is it national? No, it's not national. It's market specific. Amanda, that's just strictly for Metro Atlanta. Every market in America will have a different percentage of ARV. One of the benefits of being in the Astro community is I actually have a national ARV map that we give you that gives you the percentage of ARV across the country. But we're constantly updating that because as you would know, the market is changing so rapidly right now that that target is moving. I mean, just 6 months ago, Racky, you weren't buying at 55% of ARV for cosmetics, were you?
No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, it's so different 6 months ago because you guys need to understand that like if you look at you have to be really good in your market. That's why I tell people choose a market, stick to it, understand it, then you can go ahead and start switching. Because the problem with that is we had here in Georgia, like that's how you should be in your market. We had 6,400 something active listings in Georgia in January versus now we do have 6,300. But the problem with that is now the sold properties, right? Versus then in January we had 6,400 active. We only sold. I'm looking at my notes right here. We only sold 1,900 versus June and July. Actually, June we sold 3,300 properties and we had less active listings.
Wow.
But what does that tell you? You got to understand your market. How do you analyze a deal? How you identify a deal is very important. But more important than that is actually competent and getting the right ARV. So that,
what you guys want to understand is that in seeing that sales might be down in Atlanta. So percentage of sales are very likely down, but that's more because, well, A, fewer people can qualify because of the higher rates, but B, fewer people are selling their properties. So there's fewer transactions. But if you guys also see that pricing didn't necessarily drop, right? So if pricing didn't drop, but sales dropped, that means it's more added pressure on the market to push pricing and stabilize pricing or push it up. So 100%. With all of the things that are happening in the economy right now, especially in the money markets and whatnot, I think it's very, very important to note that it's super. You have to connect to other investors in your area. You've got to get boots on the ground information, and you can use privy to show us what percentage of ARV. Actually, let's look at that real quickly if we could, Benson. Can you show us Metro Atlanta, some fix and flips in Metro Atlanta? I want to show how specifically privy can be used to define what percentage of ARV buyers are buying at right now. Can we look at a few of those examples,
Sure,
Benson?
yeah. So
Yeah,
it's this button right over here that says fix and flip. When you click that, it shows it nationwide, and then you can just drill down into the area you want to look at. And then you'll see the percentage of ARV that buyers are buying at and which neighborhoods. So you'll be able to get larger margins in areas where there's lots of investor activity compared to the areas where there's not anybody doing deals. So if I get a little bit closer here and this starts to kind of refresh, Rocky, and I'd be interested to see your perspective on this as well. What part of the greater Atlanta area do you think is the hottest right now?
Really, it's funny because in the south side of Atlanta, a lot of activities are there, but not a lot of buyers are there. So it's like the opposite. You will have the same buyer buying multiple there. Like, for example, a hedge fund will be all over South Atlanta because of the median price, right? So that the difference between January and now, we're up about $65,000-$70,000 in the price. Like Jamil was saying, the price is significantly higher, but days of market are a lot less.
Yeah.
That's I mean, guys, that tells you that really paints a picture, right? That if you can get your hands on deals right now, if you can, you do agent outreach, like for instance, Raki was about to show us a house that he got through agent outreach. If you can master getting your hands on opportunities, they'll sell. You just got to get the pricing right? You got to get those opportunities in front of you. So, but this isn't a lead generation Zoom, guys. This is strictly about comping. We do other challenges on lead gen. We'll do it another time, but let's look at a flip, right? So let's see this one. What percentage of ARV was this one bought at? And let's see if we can tell if it was a cosmetic or a full gut.
They bought it at 71%, which seems crazy.
Pretty high. Very high. Yep.
But they flipped it. So they bought it in May and they just sold it.
Now we have to take this again with the understanding that this is a 1998 build, right? So there's the likelihood they had to do any repairs to the electrical, plumbing, roof are very low, right? But this is still 1,755 square feet. They didn't change the kitchen cabinets, so they just painted them. They've got the lowest grade granite that you could possibly use, and that's like the ugliest granite that I think you can get. They got that gray floor from the discount rack. They got the gray paint from 2015. This is probably one of the most uncreative fix and flips I've ever seen, which again, I'm not mad at. This investor knew exactly how to maximize their return and spend as little money as possible and still get in and out of this deal. So I actually congratulate this investor for their restraint and not going overboard and knowing exactly what things they needed to do to make the deal work. So this, guys, is a great buyer for you. Here's another thing that I would tell you can gain from Privy is now we know the name of the guy who will overpay in Atlanta, right? His company is called Homes and Homes Properties, and we could probably go to Open Corporates and find out who the owner of that is and find their information out. That's, again, we won't do that today. That's for another day. But do you see now? Do you see, we now know of a buyer that overpays in Atlanta that just sold a flip that might be ready for another one. Let's take a look at some more examples there, Benson, before we get into the next comp.
Right. And I like to add to that, what Jamil was talking about. It's really, I mean, don't get too hung up on like, I don't know how long this is going to take, because all that depends on the buyers, how knowledgeable they are with the areas, their crew, and what kind of funding they use. If they're using cash, then the chances of them losing money up front is not so high. But if they're using hard money lenders and they want in and out, then yes, that takes into consideration. So work with your buyers at they're your partners, because they're gonna make your job a whole lot easier.
Yep.
Love it.
This one was an off market deal. That last one was on the MLS. This one was acquired off market. They got it for 400,000, 49% of the ARV. They sold it for 820,000.
Okay, so great one to look at here, Benson, because I think this shows us the different scale. So this was looking at the first picture. We can't see a lot of what the house really looked like because it was, again, bought off market. But I mean, they weren't watering the lawn. Everything was just kind of falling apart. There's a good chance that this was a complete full gut remodel. Let's look at the exterior picture if we could of the flip. I want to see if we can notice a new roof.
Yep.
Right. So guys, you can see we've got new roofing. So that right out the gate, that tells us this is a full gut, right? But then also built in 1920, right? So 1920, what does that tell us it's going to have? Old plumbing, old electrical. So they're going to need to upgrade the electrical panel. They're going to upgrade the plumbing, probably from that old clay stuff to PV. What do they call it? PVC or whatever. So there's going to need to be money spent on sunken costs that we don't really cosmetically see because it's behind the walls or under the ground, or on top of the structure. So it doesn't give a lot for aesthetics other than the roof, but still needs to get done and have money spent on it. So full gut. Looking at the remodel that they've done in here, I'd call this a level 10 remodel. They did a phenomenal job on this one. Phenomenal job. Did they add any square footage? Does it look like?
Nope. It's the same.
Well, didn't it go from a 2 to a 4 bed?
It did.
And it went from a 1 to a 4 bath?
Mm-hmm.
But no change in square footage?
Not based off of this.
They had a really big rooms in there. And this investor was like, if they kept the same square footage, they just used whatever space they got and turned it into an extra bedroom, which increases the price by at least, it's in Atlanta, it's crazy.
Yeah, so let's see if we can see any basement square footage there just before we go off of this one, looking at the photos to see if we can find any, because there could have been some added square footage that's not being counted by the appraiser because it's nope, nothing there. So they did a reconfiguration here, guys. They did a complete reconfiguration, and they did a full level 10 remodel, and they bought it at 49, 50% of ARV, which is right in line with where Raki is saying that this is where the market is right now. And it's actually getting a little bit more aggressive. So today he probably would have had to pay 55% of ARV to get this one under contract. But again, you can see the name of this investor. If we go down, we can see who the seller was of that property. And then we can know that this investor will do very involved renovations. Okay. So if you want to sell to somebody who's not scared of getting their hands dirty and doing a really big rehab, this is probably a good opportunity for you. Let's pick a house now and comp it.
Yeah, we can't comp the one I got on. Let's just pick any one of anywhere in here, and we just comp it immediately.
Okay, what's the address?
So I want them to see like you can actually find properties on Privy as well. Oh, we got one in there. Spamming the chat, but it's
someone had this one on Hank Aaron. It's the one I pulled up previous.
Okay, let's see that one. 939 Hank Aaron Drive.
Okay, so off market, 2028 square feet, ranch, real overgrown, built in 1920.
So we automatically know this is going to be a full gut because it's a 1920 build, right? So it's going to need everything done to it. So that means that we need to be at what, guys? 55%, 50 to 55% of ARV, right? Okay, so now let's
full gut 40, but keep it at 40-ish.
Okay. Full gut, Raki's saying even down to 45, 40, 45. So we'll take a look at where this thing needs to go. So can we see all of the sales and not just the investor ones there?
Yeah. So when we click all, it isn't we're not removing investors. We're just removing the comping criteria. So
Got it.
it just removes like the tolerances for square footage and that sort of thing.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and click all.
Just want to see more than less if possible, you know, and then
Yeah.
we'll make the adjustments ourselves. So let's take a look at what's around it. So there's quite a bit that's very close in this one on 907 Hank Aaron. Gosh, that looks like it could be the one. Let's open that up. Not enough data to show that it was a flip. Do we have anything else that we can find?
It was a public record sale, so it sold off market.
Yep.
This went on Crew.
What's our high
Um,
sale?
That
We got a 590.
got a
There's
five.
Oh,
one
750 down there.
750.
Dang. Okay, let's look at that. But it's
That's new
significantly
construction.
smaller.
It's 3 levels. It's a new build, 2022.
So
Yeah.
we can take that out. So guys, this is great for us to see because this is not a comp. That's a new build. So we can exclude that. So let's see what's our highest one that's still a 1920 build that's somewhat close to our
It's 40
our
still.
subject.
There's two
Right here,
640.
this one's 640.
Let's
Yeah,
take a
those
look at that.
20s. Ooh la la, look at that.
Here we go.
Doors like this tell you they're investors.
Big time. This is 100% a full level 10 remodel. You can see they've done a beautiful job here. They've got a 4-bed, 2-bath, 2,034 square footer, 1920 build, similar size lot, level 10 construction inside. They've done a phenomenal job of this. What's the delta between the size of this one and our subject?
It wasn't much. So this was 2034. It's 6 square feet.
I mean, guys, this is our perfect comp. This is our perfect comp. So I would call the ARV on this one 340. Racky, unless you see something that I'm missing, let's see where
No,
it's
640.
located. Let's see where it, yeah, 640. Where is it located comparatively to ours? Can we see that on the map, Benson, by chance?
Yeah,
it's
it's
just half a mile.
0.37 miles. So it's right here. So here's the comp.
Yep.
Here's the subject.
Perfect. Perfect. I think that it's totally acceptable to use that one. So there we go. We've got a perfect comp. Now, how do we, if you look next to it, Benson, there's the other square footage that's listed on that second one at 640. It says 3237. What can we trust?
That one
Look
probably,
up.
probably
at
has
the
a basement.
Look at the photos up. Look up. Go up. Yes. So that next one, it says 3237. What do you think has happened there? Have they added 1,200 square feet?
Well, that's what's interesting. So this one here, this one is from FMLS. There's two main MLSs in Atlanta. There's FMLS and there's GMLS.
Correct.
The agent that listed on FMLS put it as 2034 square feet. The agent that put it on Georgia MLS put it at 3237 square feet.
So now, because I don't like this variance, I want to find one more comp. And so let's do that. Let's find another, let's find more evidence because that square footage confuses it. There could be a 1,200 square foot variance here, and we can't prove one way or the other where that 1,200 square feet went. So let's see if we can find one more comp to justify. For those asking, do you only look for one comp? Here's what I do. I look for the most recent high comp, and that's my anchor. Now, again, of course, you always want to find more evidence, right? Another comp is not, it'll be helpful. So more evidence is better than less evidence, but I am going to always tell my story based off of the high comp that I anchor off of, because that tells us what the maximum potential of the property is. Because that's what I sell a wholesale deal off of, right? It's maximum potential. What else do we got here?
And can we go to that 753? What, 2 more down? It's got
Right
an
here?
extra bathroom, but I want to see what. Never mind. I'm sorry.
That's
Because
new construction.
That's 2019. I thought it was like 1919. All right, let's see.
Here's one that's went for
Here's one.
780,
Okay.
1920 construction.
Okay. Let's flip around through that. They've done a really nice job on this one as well.
Mm.
Eclectic, you know, it's definitely, this was not an investor flip. This is somebody who has specific tastes that has remodeled
Right.
this one.
Yeah.
Any information in the description here that speaks to size, if there's any additions or anything that we're missing in here.
Right. And for the clarification, guys, that zip code in Atlanta is a lot higher than the one we just comped earlier than this, because it varies big time in Atlanta. That's why I say you need to understand your market.
So wait, are
Because
you
we-
saying that, Racky, you can't use this one because it's a different zip?
No, from the one we comped earlier, the very first house we had in Atlanta.
Okay, yeah.
Because the prices, because now I know people are looking at prices like, oh, but this is 750,000. I can take the same exact house with the same features, put it in a different zip code like 30318 and sell it for 350.
Got it.
Hmm.
Now this does have you know, it's not as recent of a comp because it sold over 6 months ago. So again, I still feel a little bit wary just sticking to that. The first one that we had was, how much was that first one that we saw, guys? Was that 680? What was that? What was that sale at?
Yeah, 680.
Okay,
670.
so this 780, I also don't like using this one because it's a huge delta from our 680. So I think this creates too much ambiguity in range. So let's see if we can find another example closer to 780 or 640 that can help us nail home what the ARV for this is going to be.
Right. And make sure you guys gather as much information as you can when you get properties, because that's going to help you analyze the deal and also pitch it to your cash buyers.
Sandra says, I don't have privy, but I'm trying to do this on PropStream. What's the difference? The difference is the data quality is completely different. Look, I love the folks over at PropStream, nice people and whatnot. They have a cool tool, but they're not tapped into directly to the MLS, which privy is. So Sandra, you're just using, like, it's like wanting to cut steak with a butter knife.
Hmm.
So, I mean, personally, I think that you're paying for a tool. Why not use the tool that's actually going to be helpful to you, because it has the most accurate data on it. So I would highly recommend making the switch. Again, nothing against the fine people over at PropStream. Wish them a tremendous amount of love, but I don't think that the tools are even comparable. I think that, you know, when you look at just how accurate the data is that gets tied in directly to the MLS that you get from Privy, and then versus third party, which you get at PropStream, they're not even close to the same. All right,
That's the house again.
this is the same one, right?
It's the same one. It just came from public record.
Okay,
So-
so
Besides those two, it looks like we drop off to like the mid fives after that.
all right,
That's
so
3.2s. That's why we're going to 3.2s, which I'm starting to have a feeling about this one house. I know it says 4.2, but I think somebody entered incorrectly, like that square footage you just talked about, because I'm seeing a lot of 3.2s, like by looking at the screen right now. But if we keep it at 4.2s, I'm really like nearing like north of 500, to be honest.
yeah, I this sale at 475. Can we see that sale on Hanker? Because that's right on the same street. So I think we should
Make
should-
adjustment to it.
yeah, just see it. No, there's no pictures there. So that's sold off market. So that's not going to help us. But that does tell us that somebody paid 475 for an off market in this area. So that does lend closer to the 680 comp than a 500 comp.
Mhm.
So what's that one on what's that 640 sale on? I read at the bottom of the screen.
Oh, that's the one on Armand. that we
That's
were
the
just
one.
looking at.
That's the one on
Yeah.
Armand. Okay. So yeah, I think guys, this one's going to be our closest to the one red herring is going to be the extra square footage. So if this does have more square footage, you're going to need to It's probably going to be closer to what Raki said. It's going to be in the 5s. If it does not have that extra square footage, then I believe that the 640 would be the ARV. So there's a little bit of ambiguity there just based off of the square footage discrepancies and not enough data for us to get an understanding. But let's check one last thing. Can we see actives?
Yeah, there's 16 actives.
Let's see what's active close by, renovated, to tell us where the investors think the market is.
Mhm.
Well, this one on Haygood is listed at 575. It's been on the market for 110 days, but it's much newer.
Much newer.
So it doesn't have that craftsmanship look like those other homes did.
Okay, so I don't necessarily like that. What else do we got?
Let's look at the 5 board. I know it's a little high. I just need to have an understanding. It's 1920. I want to see what they did.
Oh, this is
Okay,
on
yeah.
Armand, down the street from that other house.
Yep, that is true from the other house.
Too big.
Too damn big. Yeah, but it's so.
But
I
look at
just
that
wanna-
though. It's
Yeah.
another. So then this also tells us that maybe something's going on Armand Street, right? Does Armand have a historic designation that our subject doesn't have?
It's a good question.
Because like both of these high sales are on Ormond, but we're not seeing that happen anywhere else.
And it's across the street from Commercial.
Is that a court? I'm not sure if that's a courthouse or not.
It looks like an apartment. I mean, like an office building.
Yeah, something weird, and that's super strange too, right?
Mhm.
So what's another active we can take a look at?
This one here, that's new. 975. A lot of newer construction stuff that's on the market in this area.
Anything from the 18s and 1900s that we can see?
Here's a newer, this one's an older build. They're selling it for the lot.
I think they're selling two. They're selling both of them.
Yeah, it's
right?
both of those.
Yeah, it's
so
both
not-
of them. It doesn't
yeah,
make sense at 730. The bulk sale.
Yeah, you know when
And
they have this,
let's
as the
look at
main picture.
pendings.
Nothing here we can really use. And this one's probably going to be flipped.
Yeah, so again, seeing that there is that square footage discrepancy, this could be a value add play. This could be something where somebody adds square footage. I don't necessarily think that has to be the case, because you do have a larger house at 2,028 square feet. It's already a 4-bed, 2-bath. So what's the utility of adding more square footage to that? Right. It's like right in the line of what the size of home that people want. It's right in the line of home of the bed and bath count that people want. And so necessarily, I don't think that this is one where you'd want to go and add another 1,000 square feet or 500 or 700 square feet. So so I'm going to call it a 640 ARV with the asterisks on it that that we have a square footage discrepancy that we need to get more clarity on. Let's do another one.
For those in the chat that's saying they're not seeing what Benson is seeing, remember, guys, he draws a line with a pen to highlight certain areas so not to cross the major roads. Just
Yeah, I changed the comp zone on that one, you guys, and I clicked all activity.
So let's slow it down, Benson's, and can you say what you're doing to people so that they can know what you're pressing, clicking, where you're finding that, so that we can have
Yeah.
more clarity for those. And yes, we'll define what a major road is. So if you take a look at this, let's take off your square. Okay, so a major road, right? This Summerhill Road on up to the north of the box. Summerhill Road, looking at how thick that line is, that's Summerhill is going to be a dividing line. Okay, Atlanta Avenue isn't as thick. If you see, it's a little bit thinner but it is also a busier road. So we'd want to see how much differential is there, between the north and the south side of Atlanta, as well as Hank Aaron, east and west of Hank Aaron. So preferably you'd want to be in that section that is, and see, Atlanta Road isn't busy up there. So you could actually go all the way up
Summerhill.
to Summerhill. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how much the neighborhood changes between one side of Hank Aaron and the other. If we can take a look at a couple of houses on one on each side, that'll tell us more if the neighborhood changes a lot. And if we can see the subdivision name, can we see subdivision name on Privy?
No.
Okay.
Well, you can inside the property itself. So in the assessor's data, we have the
district.
where's the school district. Where are we at? Right here, legal description.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the city of Atlanta, so technically there isn't no actual neighborhood unless there's a historic district or an actual like gated community or whatnot.
Cool.
So one thing that helps me sometimes, you guys, is when I switch over to the satellite view and you can see, like the street order and also the size of the lots. And sometimes you can see like just a obvious difference. This doesn't change a ton from here to here. So that sometimes is helpful, but obviously like the yellow ones over here, that's a major cutoff, right? And so what we did the first time is, if I switch back to the map view, is in the upper right hand corner of the screen, there's this little pencil icon, and that's the drawing tool. That's what allows you to change the comp zone. So if I click that, it changes the mouse to crosshairs, and I can draw my line down this one that we know is an obvious cutoff, and then across here. And then I think, and you want to go to where the zone was previously. You still want to try to stay within about a half a mile.
Yep.
Right. If possible.
And then Benson, go back to satellite view, because I think that looking at the roofs and seeing what that looks like is really, really helpful in seeing if the neighborhood changes a lot. Pretty similar looking to me from one side of Hank Aaron to the other. And I'm not seeing a lot of variance there. So I think you've got a very similar neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yep.
Let's get into another comp.
Anybody else?
Guys, put your there you go. There's one from Phil. No, that's actually that's not in Atlanta. If you guys have,
I would. Khalil asked, would you adjust if you have to comp over the highway? I wouldn't use a comp on the other side of the highway, brother. At that point, it's disqualified. When you cross a freeway, you're just in completely different worlds.
Right. There you go. You got one from Cloud. I guess it's a Claudia. Maybe?
Claudette. Okay, let's do this one from Claudette. 1025 Regis Road, Atlanta.
And keep in mind, guys, that we are still in the up to June. Speaking of Georgia market, we're still in the seller's market. Anything below $3 million, which is still crazy to me. Anything more than 3 million is buyer's market, but we're still in the seller's market in Atlanta, Georgia, until up until June.
And again, guys, if you have any interest in working closer with me in the community here at Astro, Josh Rice has information there in the chat. We'd love to talk to you. You can send him a text message or an email and just see if we're a good fit for you guys. I think, and if you're an aspiring wholesaler and you're not in the Astro community, I would evaluate the decision. But let's see what we've got coming up here on this next one. So 1025 Regis Road. So we've got a 3-bed, 1-bath, 1,000 square footer.
This was just sold.
Just sold. Okay. When?
What is that updated August 2nd? On the top, what is it?
Yeah, June 27th.
June 27th, yeah. If somebody wants to sell it, probably it's a wholesale deal.
Yeah. So if we look at distance here, it's 3-1, 1959. Everything is built in a pretty tight time frame here from the recent sales. Like a lot of construction happened at the same time in this area. And then this one right here jumps out. It closed in February. It sold for 310.
Okay. I mean, that's on the same street. It looks, you can see that was a flip. You can just tell by the door color. But going through pictures there, you can see remodel happen. They put some new cabinets, new flooring, counters, all the things. Not the best remodel that I've ever seen.
Right.
Definitely not the worst. But somewhere in the middle there. So that 310, I think, is really it's really on the money.
Mm-hmm.
What are the differences, if there are any adjustments we need to make?
It's a 3-2, it's a 3-1, same lot size. What's the square footage of the other one? Because I couldn't, it's okay, I don't have a square
It's not listing the square footage on our subject, I don't believe, is it?
It isn't. That's why I'm looking at it. It's weird. Assessor's records.
See if you can pull it up on another website to see if maybe it can pull from somewhere else. If we don't have the square footage, it's very difficult to get an accurate number. It's just, you have to get the confirmation of what that is before deciding what the ARV or any of that is, because it's pretty important.
They're saying it's 875 square feet.
Okay. That's our subject or the comp?
That's the comp.
Okay. What about our subject?
working on it.
The subject's 1,000 square feet.
Perfect.
Okay,
Perfect.
perfect.
Perfect. So our subject is a little bit larger, which means we'd probably up, if we take the dollar per square foot here,
Yeah, but you guys see how much the prices change, even though you're still within the city of Atlanta, but it changes one street to another, it changes big time. So just keep that in mind.
So 310 divided by what, 800, it was 52 square feet, it said. So it's 363 a foot. Multiply that by 1,000. That gets you to about a 363 ARV on our subject once you make the adjustments for the dollar per square foot. So if 363 is the ARV, Raki, knowing that we're built in 1960, we don't have, much with respect to photos. Where would you say? Would you go cosmetic? Would you go full gut? What's your gut tell you?
Really, by looking at that picture outside, it tells me that if the outside looked like this, I can only imagine the inside.
Yep.
So I really want to stick to a 45%, to be honest. I don't want to risk it because I don't have any data. Lock it up, and if you can lock it up at 45, and that's a good price after you see the house, perfect. If you need to adjust more, that's when you go see the house and send your buyers and your boots in the ground. That tells you like, okay, the house is a hoarder house on the inside. Make your adjustment, because now we don't have any data, which is why we love working with agents. Big time.
That gets you to a buy price when you make the adjustments of about 160, right? So if you're in this for 160, ARV's 360, I think you got yourself a solid deal. Raki, how much do you think you could make wholesaling that?
Good average 15,000, which is the average right now at this price.
Yep. Beautiful. Benson, let's go back to our faces here. So thank you both for coming on and being a part of this and sharing your knowledge. Benson, sharing your extreme competence with the tool, obviously being intimately associated with it and having helped build it and do all of that. We just really appreciate what you guys have made for us over at Privy, for everybody to be able to do this business regardless of whether they have a real estate license or not. You give MLS access essentially to non-realtors, which is phenomenal, right? This is why wholesaling is harder to do in Canada, because you don't have access to this MLS data in Canada the way that Benson and Privy has access to it here in the United States. So again, one of the most incredible tools that exist in this business is privy. I still saw people in the chat saying they don't have privy, and it boggles my mind. It boggles my mind why you would use outdated tools, outdated softwares to if you're serious about this business. You know, if you're a chef, why don't you have a sharp knife? Right? This is the important pieces, right? If you're a chef, why not have a sharp knife? Right? So again, we're just going to put the link in the chat one last time, because tomorrow we're going to be just comping for 90 minutes. I'm not going to get into any of the theory. Coriana is going to be here with us. We're going to have Benson here again with us tomorrow. She's in 9 different markets. So you're going to get information from her on 9 different markets, which I think is pretty interesting and important to understand. And so this way you can leave with some of this important market-specific information that'll help you get your offers out. Now, guys, if you received any value from today's lesson, do me a favor and throw a heart in the chat so that we can show Raki and we can show Benson and Emily and everybody on my team just how awesome they are for helping put this stuff on. Lots of love here for you guys. Lots of love, lots of love. Thank you both so much for being a part of this and giving us your time and your attention and your knowledge and expertise. And to the 670 odd people who showed up today, again, congratulations for taking the time out of your day, out of your life to learn this stuff. Make sure that you're following along with us tomorrow. So if you didn't already get privy, make sure you're going to runprivy.com using code COMPFU. That's COMPFU for the discount. And let's get to this tomorrow. We're going to comp for 90 minutes straight. So bring your brains, have your coffee, be ready to just get into it, because we're not going to be going over any theory tomorrow, guys. We are going to get right to the comps. And so lastly, if you guys are interested in hearing any more about the Astro community, again, my opinion is that if you are a wholesaler, if you are wholesaling, not being connected to the largest community of active wholesalers in the entire country is to your detriment. Come be a part of this movement of being ethical, of understanding this business at the highest level, not from the lowest level, right? We have to stop telling ourselves that it's okay to suck because we're brand new wholesalers. No. Okay, if you were a doctor, if you were a first year out of medical school, you still had to know what you were doing. You still had to have had training before you started cutting people open, right? So learning from people that are really experienced in specific markets and being a part of a community of like-minded individuals is always a really, really great way to extend not only your network, but your ability and your reach and your capacity to learn and understand how to do this business at a high level. And if that is an interest to you, Josh is in the chat. His phone number, I'm just going to say it, is 602-960-4703. 602-960-4703. 602-960-4703. If you want to talk to Josh and learn more about the Astro community, I'd love to have you be a part of it. But from Benson, Raki, myself, and everybody else from this community, we love you guys. God bless you. And we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Benson.
Bye, everyone.